Echoes of Humans, Beliefs and Perspectives, Chapter 2, Hinduism. Most of the foundational human thought developed in the Northern Hemisphere, where the lower and mid-latitudes became a home to this endeavor. The rest of the world was undiscovered or covered with watery main, and where the humans were, life itself was too challenging to sustain. Within the lands of India, Judea, and the Arabian shore, the great religions were born, lighting thought as never before, and in the mighty array of the axial age contest, philosophies of Greece and China too joined this quest. Before Abrahamic faiths rose one by one across the 2 millennia, in India, Hinduism began to evolve with the great Rig Veda. From the arid steppes came men with nothing much but grit and wonder, but in the fertile plains of India, they could amply ponder. For the faithful in all religions, the revelations hold the highest place. The Vedas, the Torah, and the Quran occupy this sacred space. Below the revealed religion come sundry revered texts, myths, rituals, liturgy, and other devout quests. Hinduism is a system of multiple beliefs and sprites. Its vast awning gives shade to assorted acolytes. Here, monism, theism, and even atheism find free expression, though henotheism might be its most apt description. The passions and pursuits that drive the human mind in the Hindu way of life, an exalted place they find. The 4 purusarthas of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha combine to help us have a perspective with which most can align. In Hinduism, the transactional nature of man-God relationship is well understood. The Hindus believe they are uniquely configured to discern God's mood. Thousands of gods stand ready to serve the pelf and abatement of suffering, but their minutest whim must be met before we can send them bustling. The oblations comprise the triad of prayers, liturgy, and sacrifice, a shrouded world of smoke and oil, sound and guise. Finding something fitting for the sniffing gods is not an easy quest. Only then can bargains be struck and fiery spirits put to rest. Hinduism has coursed through centuries like the ebb and flow of a river. Powerful movements like Buddhism and Jainism may have caused it to dither. Islam may have enjoyed success under royal patronage and fervor. But each time, Hinduism has found a way to survive and prosper. One reason was, even at the customary level, Hinduism was willing to integrate the predilections of indigenous people. It was ready to consecrate. Their sacred animals even became the vehicles of the Aryan deities. The peacock, the swan, the bull, too, played a role in conciliating the devotees. In the rising tide of asking and answering came the Vedic thought and chants. There was now something to help free life from its constraints. The Vedic pantheon was full of gods from the natural world. Fear of animals had been overcome, but the perils of nature still lurked. The oral traditions of the Vedas seemed to light a lamp. Hymns to Indra and Agni filled the firmament. The mystical yearnings of the humans were now addressed through speculative thought, hitherto rarely so well expressed. The Samhitas were the most venerable layer of the Vedic text. To help the householders to carry out rituals, Brahmanas were annexed. The Aranyakas were for the recluses, dwelling on philosophy that lay behind sacrifice. To help seek salvation through knowledge, the Upanishads were for the wise. Vedas were considered so sacred that it was a sacrilege to write them. The Vedic poets were children of nature, of fire, water, and sun. In the Brahmanas and Aranyakas, there is much ritualism and elucidation. Only in Upanishads, the philosophies from monism to pluralism find attention. At the feet of the rishis, the Upanishads were learnt and taught. In these, there was a movement away from Vedic rituals to pristine thought, samsara, dharma, karma. They were only a prelude to liberate Atman before it dissolved in Brahman's amplitude. Vedic ritual was no ordinary ceremony. Slightest laxity rendered it futile. No expense or intention could then salvage it from deity's bile. Foster experienced it when a single word he mispronounced tilted his battle against Indra, leading him to be trounced. The Rig Veda says who knows for certain whom creation obeyed, whether heaven and earth were made or self-made, and he who looks at us from his heavenly chambers, only he knows, or perhaps he knows not, these matters. Bringing melody into the ancient land were Samavedi's chants. Their liturgical resonances fulfilled laity's wants. Samaveda is less meant to be read and more to be heard. It became a key influence in Indian music, whose growth it spurred. To the hymns and chants of Vedas was added sacrifice, a primordial conjunct accepted even by the wise. Indira, Agni, Soma, Surya were no ordinary immortals. Only the ritualistic offerings of Yajur Veda could open their portals. Understanding the Rig Veda in fullness was no easy feat. The lives of ordinary folks wanted an easier retreat. Atharva Veda provided the charms, incantations, and sorcery for man to come to terms with his traumas and despondency. There are 6 Vedic schools of philosophy and 4 non-Vedic beliefs. Yoga Samkhya, Nyaya Vaiseshika, Mimamsa Vedanta are 3 compacts of 2 each. The non-Vedic schools are Buddhism, Jainism, Karvakas, and the deterministic Ajavakas. These 4 are considered heretical as they do not acknowledge the Vedas. The classic descendant of Vedas is Mimamsa of Jaimini seer. It seeks Dharma through practices which can often be austere. Gods are inferior to Vedas, can be called into attendance through rituals performed with complete Vedic allegiance. The Mimamsa Vedanta compact has left a permanent mark on Indian life. The Mimamsids looked at cosmos as nothing but a grand rite. In Vedic rituals, they saw Veda's most sacred aspect. Jaimini insisted that God existed in the recitation of the Vedic text. Mimamsa ruled the Indian philosophical tradition before Vedanta, but Sankara changed it all with the monism of Advaita. Vedanta also included Ramanuja's qualified monism and Madhava's dualism. Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita shored up this system. According to Sankara, the earlier and later parts of Vedas were for different audiences. For the less initiated, there was a certain obligatoriness for ceremony and sacrifices. For the true seeker of Brahman, these were but formalities writ in water, having meaning only for those unable to see beyond the apparition of matter. In the Vedas, theism in its purest sense was never a dominant concept. Sankara's interpretation added another layer to their meaning and content. Brahman is the cause from which proceeds all substance and dissolution. The essence in man and the essence in the universe is the same profusion. Sankara developed Advaita into a coherent system of metaphysics. He refuted all other philosophies with his probing analysis. No meditation, no worship, no ritual was required to be used when the human mind with Brahman is suffused. Brahman was the overarching and universal bond, pervasive and unrestricted by nether and beyond. Time, space, and matter were peripheral interferences. profoundly meaningless for the unneedy omniscience. The nature of Brahman is neti neti, not this, not that. Only by a set of negations its true meaning can be arrived at. A positive attribute only draws a limiting circle around its presence. It detracts from its unboundedness and essence. Integral to each phenomenon is Maya, a veil and ignorance. It exists in each sight and sound, in attachment and repugnance. It is as if God, tired of his absolutism, invented a game, and only as an afterthought gave man the power to experience Brahman. Sankara did not claim to be an inventor of a new system of thought. Through Upanishads, the oneness of Atman and Brahman he sought. Since Upanishads were widely revered, their glory, he recalled, with his brilliant essay, the rising tide of Buddhism was stalled. Ramanuja's Atman is different from Brahman, though organically connected. Madhava's Atman is also different, but it can never be integrated. According to Madhava, the transience of things does not make them unreal. The personal God concept of Ramanuja in Madhava had great appeal. Later, Mimamsites became adversaries of Sankara with their leanings. They held that Vedas laid the ground for rituals with their paeans, and if the Upanishads spoke of Brahman, it was only to hallow ceremony. Their purpose was only to put out of sight any differences or acrimony. In Samkhya of sage Kapila, there is no omnipotent entity, only matter and consciousness, the duality of Purusha and Prakriti. Fusion may lead to life, though each remains true to its kind. Liberation is achieved through the perspicacity of the human mind. Patanjali grafted the yogic practices to Samkhya to better bond. While Samkhya denies God, yoga can be called Samkhya with God. The purpose of yoga is to steady the mind and replenish the spirit, to advance the thought and make the great unknown explicit. Yoga, in fact, probes the deepest layers of mind, the body contortions of hatha. Yoga are only of elementary kind. Yoga generally follows Samkhya's approach to attain liberation. However, it does not value metaphysics sans meditation. The three gunas, tamas, rajas, sattva, ari, common to all yoga samkhya activity. Tamas is darkness, rajas is energy, and sattva is positivity. The three gunas are present in everything in varying proportions. Human beings can consciously change this admixture with yogic devotion. Vaisheshika of Canada is unlike typical Indian thought. The universe is made of atoms, potent in their comport, but the atom of Canada is not a Democritus's particle. It moves not by laws of physics, but by karmic cycle. Nyaya and Vaisheshika are similar in their philosophical moorings and soteriology. Nyaya is the school of logic and foundation of all Indian philosophy. Vaisheshika uses this logic to unravel existence to its barest level. In all its analysis, the atomic construct remains fundamental. Of the 6 pramanas of existence, Nyaya accepts only 4. Perception, inference, analogy, and Guru's words make up the core. Unlike in Vedanta, non-existence as proof is a sacrilege. Moksha happens only after logic culminates into knowledge. Between the Vedic and the Buddhist eras came the Karvaka thought. To Karvaka, God, karma, sin, and rebirth meant naught. Vedas he regarded as gratuitous rhapsodies of the past. His emphasis on the impulse of here and now was unabashed. In the Svetasvatara Upanishad, some heretical views are expressed. This has a doctrine in which matter as the ultimate principle is stressed. The materialistic philosophy of Carvaka is probably an offshoot of this view, a contrarian response that the jolted Hindu mind could not quite subdue. There is no soul, no rebirth. Life with nothingness is fraught. Scriptures are but homilies to keep people reconciled to their lot. Puranas are mythical tales, weekend respites from life's grind. The ideal is to give in to senses and put everything else behind. The Carvakas railed against the tradition and fabric of Hindu society. The irrepressible sexual desire made one question even the caste's purity. In any lineage, betrayal in the long chain of ancestors is always a possibility, since copulation is a brief encounter, sometimes born by opportunity. Who knows whether the traditional theory of karma is worthy of high mention? Of karmic fruit following the karmic seed in an inseparable succession? Or whether both sit outside the simple cause and effect existence, driven not only by action, but also by some hard-to-fathom sequence. The question is, how much randomness is built into the universe, and how much of it is cause and effect with its linearness? Or is randomness just a subtle form of cause and effect, that the human faculties are too raw to detect? The awesome majesty of universe may have little appetite for tabulating our sins and misdemeanors in candlelight. Clusters of atoms give rise to all shapes, forms, and elegance, to emanations like feelings, thoughts, and intelligence. If karma seems to be true, it is because reaction often follows action, but sometimes things do not happen as per this expectation. No extreme conclusion can be drawn from what perishes and what survives. The reason lies in the false importance we give to our lives. Ajivakas of Gosala, the absence of free will declared, "For the moral consequences of action, they did not care. Everything was preordained. Human effort was of no avail. Fate unwrapped itself, brooking no mediation or veil." The great epics are next in rank to the Vedic revelations. They provide a moral metric to the average Hindu with their interpretations. Now Vedic, now Confucian, now Socratic, they cast a spell. Their allegories and parables are a cultural treasure nonpareil. Epics everywhere are about wanderings and the ruin brought upon by war. In Ramayana and Iliad, the battles are waged not near but far. Odyssey is a post-war journey from Troy to the Ithacan shores. Only in Mahabharata is war at home in which both sides try to settle scores. Ramayana is the story of righteousness, no matter what the challenge. The noble Rama will not wilt before any ruse, anger, or grudge. The seventh incarnation of Vishnu combats knowledge and folly alike. Rishi Valmiki's epic shows us the resplendence of moral might. In Mahabharata, gods and humans are in constant strife, a harrowing tale of boons and curses and the puzzles of life. Deceit and nobility, valor and cunning, all have a role to perform. The triumph of the good leaves us happy, yet perplexed and torn. As Arjuna looks at the spectacle of his warrior cousins on the battlefield, and as the presence of the great Bhishma and Drona is revealed, his mind is filled with numbing doubt, his heart is full of dismay. At that moment, Krishna, his charioteer, shows him the way. Karma, jnana, and bhakti, when combined, lead to action that is not shackled by thought of reward or exaction. The karmic cycle itself ceases when there is no attachment, and dharma manifests itself in that exalted moment. Gita does not assert anywhere that Brahman is the only reality. only true self, that can neither be slain nor hurt, provides infallibility. Action ought to be done without drifting into covetousness. So long vainglory is kept aside, due regard can be given to sacrifice and tapas. Hinduism has no pope, no Vatican, no single scriptural authority. 4 major traditions, Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Shaktism, Smartism, make up the majority. Hinduism allows people to regard their preferred deities as preeminent. Along with Buddhism, it is known for its non-exclusionary intent. Vaishnavism, more prevalent in the north, is the largest of Hindu denominations. It considers Vishnu as supreme and worships his 10 incarnations. It is less rooted in Vedas and more in popular theistic traditions. Gita is an important influence in Vaishnavism's expositions. Shaivism considers both the Vedas and Tantric literature as credible philosophies. It is an amalgam of Rudra, the Vedic deity, and pre-Aryan theology. Shaivism flourished in South India before the Vaishnav tradition was even understood. Its worship is around a phallic column with holy ash and sandalwood. Shaktism views Devi as the source and essence of all creation, a form of energy in which the divine female is the supreme representation. It ranges from Shiva's consort, Parvati, to her incarnation as the fierce Kali. It embraces tantric precepts on meditation and cosmology. Smartism is attributed to Sankara, who considered it invaluable. 5 deities are worshipped as Sarguna by the faithful. These are manifestations of Nirguna Brahman. Sarguna worship is for the laity who have difficulty in conceptualizing Atman. In South India, Hinduism found its earliest mention during the Sangam age. The age's literature mentions some Vedic practices as a part of its faith. The Sangam period was characterized by the coexistence of many denominations: Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Advaita, Buddhism, Jainism, and the folk inspirations. Perumal and Murugan were the favored gods of the Tamils during this time. They were similar to the Puranic gods and seen as equally divine. Perumal was considered to be another name of the god Vishnu, and Murugan, the warrior god, resembled Kartikeya in their view. Just before the Bhakti movement, South India was a region of marked contrasts. In Tamilakam, it was a period of ascendancy of the Shramanas. In Andhra, there was a clear veering towards Brahmanical dominance, with Sanskrit even becoming the inscriptional language of consequence. Jainism, a Shramana faith, spread to South India through the central inland routes. This was unlike Buddhism, where the coastal lands had become the zone of its pursuits. Jainism first traveled to the south of Karnataka and then to Madurai and Tamilakam. Its following among both the merchants and peasants gave it a great momentum. Eventually, Jainism declined due to the absence of royal patronage. Its conservatism and adherence to severe austerities did not help its cause. According to one legend, when the Jain monks lost in debate with the Shaivite Sambandar, to keep their vow, they voluntarily impaled themselves in a large number. A powerful influence also came in the form of Bhakti movement, which was a theistic devotional trend with religious content. It originated in the south before the north too felt its expansion. The Gita regards Bhakti as superior to both knowledge and action. The 6th century CE in South India saw the emergence of Vaishnava and Shaiva Bhakti traditions. These greatly affected the existence of Jainism and Buddhism, the Shramanic religions. The Bhakti movement among the Tamils was spearheaded by Alvars and Nayanars. Mostly, they were the poet saints of Vaishnava and Shaiva traditions, respectively. Vedic Brahmanism and Puranic Brahmanism stood apart in time by 6 centuries. The Bhakti movement was a crucial element in the evolution of Puranic creeds. The syncretic Puranic religion included parts of the local cults and beliefs, and the interaction of this mix with the various aspects of Vedic motifs. The hymns of the Bhakti movement were dominated by 3 major themes. There was the idea of devotion to a personal God and its beliefs. Along with this, it came to be seen as a protest movement against exclusive Brahmin domination. There was also vehement denunciation of Jainism and Buddhism for their heterodox inclination. Shaivism gradually gained the upper hand, especially under the Chola kings. This dynasty played a role in diminishing Vishnu's importance. Vishnu had to wait till the advent of the Vijayanagara period to be fully trusted and have his sovereignty restored. Of all the incarnations of Vishnu, that of Krishna became the most celebrated one. He was seen as possessing all the features of Vishnu in people's opinion. He embodied divine playfulness and revealed supreme wisdom in a Taoist way, remaining a picture of perfect detachment in the midst of life's disarray. The uneasy duet of religion and libido exists in all faiths. The scriptures try in vain to tame the bonobo in us. This is one aspect that knows little or no obedience. Masterful in fantasy and act, our most unruly inheritance. It is a moot point as to why in the Adam and Eve story. Of all the temptations that crowd our legacy, the Satan chooses nakedness of human body to deceive, leaving Adam with little chance before the beguiling form of Eve. Indra, Agni, and even the ascetic Shiva are prone to lewdness. The Puranas describe gods as lustful and promiscuous. Though Vedas regard sex only as a vehicle for procreation, the less exalted texts leave plenty of room for freer expression. The Kama Sutra of Vatsyayana is a well-known treatise in this respect, though art of living well is also its important aspect. Its postural confections are more of an introductory sideline. As in full ecstasy, it believes there can be no textual guideline. Along with Vatsyayana, Kakoka was another learned amorist. His Ratirahasya laid out a steamy prescript, classified women into categories based on forms and humors, and the carnal act is embellished with all kinds of maneuvers. Sex comes in many guises, from love to opportunity to guile. To the mesh of body and mind is added passion volatile. It is not physical prowess or the allurement of some thought, but as in a choir, each voice must play its part. Some use lineage, some might, some nimbleness, and some thought. To fend off the headwinds and keep themselves afloat, the harlot uses intimacy to eke out her grimy needs, each to his own. There is no sin in these deeds.